For more insights and strategy, we're back for this version of Hot Desk Podcast with Melody Brue. Melody, how are you doing coming off the border of Texas and Mexico and McAllen? It's great to see you.
I'm great. I got home really late last night, but
Was that by design or something happened?
I took a late flight and then it was a little bit delayed, so I got home around 1:00 in the morning.
Gosh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay.
I'm sorry to hear that. I did 2 cities in 3 days, and I'm still kind of worn out. But hopefully, I'll get out and not have to work too much this weekend. But hey, I am glad that everybody has tuned in. If it's your first time, we're talking about the next new normal in modern work, and in terms of marketing technologies, techniques, all the good stuff. And I think we got a good show for you today, because we are going to talk, of course, about Zoho Day 24 hashtag. Talk a little bit about ServiceNow CRM ambitions, company that they do a lot of APIs, they're in a lot of stuff. What could they do in terms of CRM? We're going to talk about collaborative apps on Apple Vision Pro. And I don't know, I might give some first person POV on using it. I'll be honest, I haven't used it for collaboration yet. And then we're going to talk hot or not SuperBowl commercial pre-releases. All right, Mel, let's dive in. Zoho Day 24 in McAllen, Texas.
McAllen, Texas. Yeah, well, it really is Zoho Days because it was a couple of days, but
don't you want to go in and change that hashtag?
Yeah, Zoho Days.
Right.
Yeah, well, so Zoho Day, I mean, let's focus on the first day, which is, you saw the CEO had the keynote about their it's such a
transnational localism.
Transnational
it just
localism.
Comes right off the tip of my tongue. Yeah, maybe because I did a podcast and I talked about it at 9 a.m. this morning.
Yeah, and I've said it and heard it so many times, and it still doesn't come off my tongue really that easily. But it's really all kind of about bringing this economic value to economies and supporting lower rate earners and lower cost of living. And they really talked a lot about their investment in McAllen, Texas, as one of the locations. But there's a bunch all across the world, and they're not all, these really rural areas. Some of them are small cities, but where they really go in and they talk about the cost of living and the potential for greater affordability in these economies. It sounds very altruistic, and it is. And there's definitely a focus on that with this company, of how they approach their ethos. And you can tell that it's really coming from a place of wanting to do good in the world. But where I really thought there was a lot of value was in the one-on-ones and the breakouts, where it was kind of focused on how this approach translates into business value, where being local, setting up shop with locals, hiring locals, understanding the needs of these local economies, local businesses, they're really getting to understand, speaking the language, understanding the cultural needs. It's not having, a sales team from India calling on somebody in Canada and not understanding the cultural differences there. And so it's not just learning the cultural differences, it's actually placing people in those regions and really getting to know, immersed in that culture. Like, I spoke with one of their regional leads in Canada, and they have 2 different language teams. So obviously, in Canada, there's a large French-speaking population and then English-speaking population. And culturally, that can be very different in terms of how they do business, in terms of, their needs, all the things. So if you really look at it from a business strategy standpoint, I actually think that Zoho is not necessarily doing this for the reason of, like the greenwashing thing. They're not saying, like, oh, we're going to do this because it looks good and all that. It is very strategic. but I actually think that they could get more out of it. The company could get more out of it by quantifying it and showing the value to companies, because increasingly
They have to make, yeah, it's either lower costs or better product fit and benefit to their business,
right.
right? That I think that's what you're talking about. So it's almost like an economic value study that shows this.
Yes. And I think that, if this was a public company, they would have to quantify these things and they would have to really explain a lot of this to shareholders. And I think there's an opportunity to do that just for a business, from a business standpoint, to show to not just their customers, but to potential customers, the good that that does, what that translates into business value when they know their customers that well and they know the business and the opportunities that well. So I think, there's an opportunity there, but I also think there was a lot, I learned a lot in the one-on-ones and in the breakout sessions of what the company is doing, in CRM, in ERP, in HCM, where they really do pay attention to their customers' needs and they have a very specific fit. Are they going to compete with Microsoft or Google? Probably not, but they play really well with those big players. I spoke to a couple of their customers where they use, maybe Zoho Desk for one thing, but they're not switching off of Google Workspace. So, but that doesn't create a problem for them. Even if they're using Zoho for CRM, all of the documents can be really easily integrated. And so I think I see definitely some opportunities there, and also some places where they can connect the dots better. But I think we'll see more at Zoholics, where they'll talk about more products. I did get a couple of teasers on some products that I can't talk about, but I think at Zoholics we'll see more about products and see how they're connecting those dots.
Yeah, this is an analyst event, and while it makes it, I think, more exciting when there are products being announced, I think that we're going to see a ton of it at Zoholics. Are you attending?
Yes.
That's great, and we're also going to have the 6.5 on site as well. So
Yeah.
looking forward to that. Let's kick to the next topic. ServiceNow, they do a ton of things, and they like to position their overall company as connecting different areas, right?
Mhm.
In enterprise apps, for instance, we talk about connecting the front end to the back end, right? Connecting your ERP to your CRM and CX, and then everything in between. And they've really made a living out of this. Now, Service from ServiceNow, they also have a kick butt way to service customers and customer requests. A lot of the times that little bug at the bottom of a website that's like, hey, what do you want to do today?
Yeah.
How can I help you?
What do you
Right?
need?
That's typically generated by a ServiceNow technology. So what are they? I mean, public companies are never, happy just kind of staying in their swim lane here. So what is ServiceNow up to?
Yeah. So uh, when you say public companies, so a lot of this came out of just looking at their earnings. They just had incredible earnings. But also what I found in their earnings is they have a 99% renewal rate with their customers, which is super high, especially for SaaS, which clearly shows that they have really high customer satisfaction. They have free, which is, clearly not free, no additional charge customer support. And they have an opportunity. So like you said, they have all of these solutions for customer service management, other service management areas as well, and they do offer some CRM, but really what they're offering is the customer service management side of it. And what they're saying is they can go in and they can actually augment other CRM solutions with their CSM, the customer service management side of it. But they have the way that they're, the way that they enter into it is this unified data model. And there are other CRM models that do this too. But when you align, like you said, they align the front, the mid, and the back office functions, then you add Gen AI to it, and you have all of these separate functions across the enterprise that can can query this data, and it gives them so much more information. And the company is really growing in that area. I think like there was, I don't have the number right in front of me. There was a huge increase in their customer or their employee and customer workflows. So I think, you know, it's a strategic entry place for them where they do have some business and they can get in there without, and Bill McDermott, their CEO, said it's not necessarily that they want to rip others out of there.
Yeah.
They can come in and they can augment that. I think that that's an opportunity for them to come in, put their CSM solution into a CRM solution without having to go through this really long process and eventually win those customers over. It's a
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I saw you starting to say something, so I wanted to see what you.
No, I wanted you to complete your thought first.
Yeah, so I see that as an opportunity because I think that they really have this incredible high level of execution. They have a really high level of sales momentum and 99% renewal rate, very happy customers, very happy employees. And I think that equates to, you know, a great opportunity for them to take over some of this market share. The integration takes a little bit longer from, you know, I haven't done it yet. So, but, you know, from my research, the integration takes a little bit longer. And so that if they can kind of wedge their way in there and be part of the solution, that opens up an opportunity for them to become the solution.
Now I'm interested in you chronicling the journey here because, you know, sometimes you get something that's very specialized and people want to be adding more features and more features and more features.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, you know, you overserve the market and maybe the category killers in some of these markets are overserving where maybe you need, you know, 25% of the features that work amazing. So I'm interested to see how this plays out.
Yeah, me too.
So, hey, Apple Vision Pro was the talk of last week, or maybe this week, maybe last week. But you know, you saw people flying airplanes, driving cars, driving motorcycles, skateboards,
In
pretty
bars.
much, pretty much doing everything. I don't know. It's annoying to me. Maybe it's cool to others, but then again, my social media cool ends at Instagram, which I don't even think my kids think are cool anymore.
Yeah. Well, so I think, you know, there's all these people doing all the crazy things, and I've seen some pretty cool applications. I haven't tried it yet, but you know, Adobe has some editing features where you can use just your eyes to edit photos, and those pretty amazing. But just on the collaboration front, there's a couple of companies that have introduced some apps that I'm interested in trying. Zoom and WebEx have introduced just meeting apps. Both of them, they use the persona. I'm going to be really honest, this persona thing creeps me out.
I couldn't even get it to work. It rejected my face. I'm not kidding. I tried 3 or 4 times and maybe there's a software update. I don't feel terrible. Neelay from The Verge couldn't get his working either.
Well, so I've seen a lot, the majority of the ones that I've seen are journalists who have been posting their reviews. And these are people that, you know, I know fairly well, and I know what their face looks like, and the persona doesn't look anything like them. And so it creeps me out. And then there's also this weird thing that happens with the hands where the hands, it's like it's cut off and it's just weird. So I think that would be really distracting in a meeting, but I imagine that this is, you know, clearly we're at V1 of this, and the meeting experience is probably not going to be great to start out with. But I do think that there will be some things that will be good, you know, for kind of field use. I think, you know, if somebody is out and they want to be a part of a meeting, they need to be a part of the meeting, they kind of need to be seen and they need to see. I could see a use case for that. That also, you know, WebEx has some features built into theirs. And again, I haven't tried it, but knowing how WebEx transitions from let's say mobile to desktop to, or mobile to car. It does the same with the Apple Vision Pro. So if you are, on your Apple Vision Pro as you're walking into your office, and then you go right onto your desktop or into your car, which may have WebEx. So that probably, could be an interesting feature for that. Again, the persona is going to not do it for me for now, but one thing, Box introduced an app for Apple Vision Pro, which I think has a really interesting use case.
Wow.
If you look at file sharing kind of, out in the wild, think about like on a construction site where you would normally have, these big, massive pieces of paper that have to be rolled out and weighed down, where now you can just open up your Box file in your Apple Vision Pro and you can move things around. You can check the measurements of things. You can really see things. Same thing in like a retail environment where you can take all of the various sketches and you can kind of put them all up in a retail environment and look and see what this merchandising schematic could be like, instead of actually going into the store and moving things around and testing things out. So it's an interesting use case for that, I think, especially with like the big blueprints and project files without having to drag around these big devices and hard copies. So that one I think is interesting. Again, I've said this before, I'm going to wait for Anshul, our XR Pro, to try all of these out before I give any real opinion on them, because Anshul he's tried, I think, probably every device that's ever been released. I mean, he has the Ray-Ban glasses, the Oculus, all the things, and he will be able to tell you the very specific little spatial parameters that are going to make a difference in what people can see and how they can, improve even the things like the hand gestures that I don't like on the persona. So I'm going to leave it up to Anshul on giving us the big take on the Apple Vision Pro, but I think we're going to continue to see a lot of this collaboration, these collaboration apps come out, and we'll see how they work.
Maybe I'll call him up this weekend and we'll nerd out, but I have to get that persona thing working. It rejected my face. I'm not going to take it personally, Apple, but come on, let's do this.
Yeah.
And gosh, it just seemed like I can't imagine going back to it, but I'm going to fire up my Mac and see if I can do, you look at your Mac and you can see the screen and supposedly work on stuff. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if that's an annoyance, if it speeds up stuff or slows it down. Every major boom in productivity, you got a little bit less productive at the beginning as you learned how to use the tools. And I'm going to give it a chance. The interesting thing is, compared to some of the, Google Glass was out in 2012. And certainly like that was full AR, and Apple Vision Pro is actually VR with a video pass through to do augmented reality. And HoloLens was truly augmented reality. So it's coming through there. I think the key again is getting back to, well, I use this more than, once for parlor tricks at a party.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the staying power here of any type of experiences. But
yeah, and it's expensive. It's not something that, it's not like the Oculus, which was $350, and the kids are going to play video games on it. So just that price point alone is going to be, the adoption rate is, I think, going to suffer a little bit just on that and vanity.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, let's hit the last topic here. It's got the SuperBowl coming up, and you're ex-chief marketing officer and do marketing tech as well as HCM and Collab. But hey, what's the issue here? I thought everybody pre-released commercials.
It used to be that people would like release the sort of an outtake or a teaser or whatever, but so many people watch the Super Bowl just to see the commercials. And now companies are making it a thing to release the commercials before. And this has become like a marketing tactic. So just to get eyeballs on the commercials to begin with, I'm actually kind of surprised that the network hasn't said, you can't release this because it's actually stealing eyeballs from us. I mean, let's put Taylor Swift aside and how many people are going to tune in just to see her. How many people do actually watch just for halftime? You know, they may have the TV on or whatever, but so many people really do tune in to see halftime. One that was released that you may have seen, Microsoft is running an ad about Copilot. And I'm really curious to see the numbers from that, to see if that really, if that moves the needle on downloads. Because if you watch the commercial, it's great. I mean, it's very artistic, it's compelling, but it doesn't necessarily give, if you don't really know what Copilot is it enough to say like, oh, I need that, I want that. And so I think there's, there's the normal commercials that you would expect, the Budweiser, the Pringles, the M&Ms, all of that. But then Google has an ad, Microsoft has an ad, T-Mobile has one that's actually not hot. Just some goofy, like, ex-sitcom actors. So I don't know what the benefit is to releasing it early other than social media and getting more eyeballs on it. But I think it diminishes the impact of seeing it during halftime.
Yeah.
And these companies, I mean, I guess they have to justify the spend. They're spending $7 million for a 30-second ad. And so justifying it on the ROI with the number of views, I get that. But I don't think from, a true like anticipation standpoint that it does much other than ruin it, I guess.
We'll have to see. I think a lot of this has to do with getting buzz in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if people actually just tune in to watch the commercials. I think most people who say that actually they're stuck, their significant other made them go to a party or sit down there and they only watch the commercials.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Now I could see, movie intros or, a new product introduction that is coming and then they tease it to actually get you there. So there's kind of the pre-gaming element of it that I could definitely see.
Well, I think that used to be the tactic, right? It was like, here's a little snippet of what that ad is going to look like. And it was like, some companies would even leak a little 5-second snippet of it, or, or sometimes even leak the Super Bowl ad that you're not going to see.
Yeah.
So, but now it's just all about like, just release it and everybody gets a pre-screening. So we'll see. I'm curious to see the numbers.
Yeah.
We'll see if it fundamentally changes the way people watch Super Bowl ads. I need to do a search of earnings, and I need one of those, whoever does these searches that, they say like, oh, the mention of ESG declined 35% in this earnings release, whatever. I need somebody to do a search for me for the word fundamentally, because everybody is overusing that word and I can't handle it.
It's so funny how different things irritate different people. Like I got a list of stuff. Sometimes they create new words in the English language that don't exist. Or they leave off a consonant and they just don't know how to actually say it. Stuff like that drives me a little crazy, but if it goes over and over, sometimes I just can't help myself. I have to bring it up,
It's funny though. It sort of becomes like it's contagious. Somebody starts
Yeah.
saying it, and then all of a sudden you hear every CEO or every head of product or everybody it will fundamentally change the way you do this. It will fundamentally something that somehow this word became a virus. It's fundamentally changed the meaning of the word.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, we're gonna talk through this at another time, but hey, I
I'll
want
do
to,
some research on the use.
yeah, exactly. So, hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in for this episode. Mel is back from the border, and so is Pat. I was only there for a day, a hot minute, and Mel, you were there for the duration, 3.5 days.
It's lovely there, actually.
I got to tell you, I looked at the food, I looked at the music, I mean, it looked like one big giant party, which is okay. It's all good. But hopefully, we got some insights on kind of what's coming up next,
Yeah.
what might come out. Very interesting discussion on AI. They're almost like underselling it. And I'm,
Yes.
as I said on the pod, the 6.5 pod today, I'm still kind of getting my arms wrapped around that position because it's definitely counter to everything else.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up because I had a conversation with a customer who said there's the Zoho part that they say we want AI to kind of be in the background and not you kind of like you don't know that you're using it. But then especially just, on CX, the customer said to me, I want my customer to know when they're using it
Yeah,
because you really want to be upfront about that. So I think there's some fine tuning that they can do with messaging around how people are using AI. But I see the point of not trying to overhype it and also the understanding that in many use cases, it's not quite there yet. And not trying to say, oh, it's going to solve all of your problems and it's going to do all of this for you. It's not there yet in so many of those use cases. And Zoho is coming out and saying that's the case for here. In the kind of the back workflows, the back office type of stuff, it's there, but on the Gen AI front, it's not, and they're not claiming it to be something it's not, which I think a lot of companies do.
yeah, I agree. Hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a great weekend. Hit that subscribe button, share with your friends, families, pets, whoever has an IP address. We certainly would appreciate it. Have a good one. Take care.